What's up everybody, how's it going? It's Berk, aka Dansweight here, and welcome back to the latest attack-only Final Fantasy challenge on the channel. And I'm continuing my journey through Final Fantasy VII to see if I can beat the game using the attack command only. There was a lot going on in the previous episode, including what ended up being my favourite part of the challenge so far in Wutai, where Yuffie managed to take on the Pagoda challenge using attack only, and we found a way to succeed. So in this session we are continuing with a very pivotal story point, which is the Temple of the Ancients. But before that, as always, I want to thank you all so much for the support. This series has been another great success, so thank you to everybody that's been supporting the channel on Patreon as well, getting that early access, and to everyone that's been liking and enjoying the videos so far. I truly appreciate it, and I'm already excited to continue to bring you guys more challenge content in the future. So without much further ado, let's get into it and continue Final Fantasy VII Attack Only. Okay my friends, welcome to the Temple of the Ancients. What's going to set this chapter apart from the previous ones is of course the fact that we have a mandatory party member who is not very well equipped for this particular challenge, because we have Aerith, who is going to be with us for this segment, and of course she is not quite the physical attacking powerhouse that we'd like her to be. And well, we only have one long range material which I need to use on Cloud to maximize his output, so at this stage Aerith is not going to be the most useful, but we have to press on and see if we can continue and complete the challenge despite Aerith not being the best party member for the job. So let's head in, see some random encounters. I'll show you some of the things that I picked up along the way of course as well, and then we will take a look at the boss battles that happened in the Temple of the Ancients. Because once again, before beginning the challenge, there's certain bosses that stand out to you. Even though I don't know the game super well, there's bosses that I was sure could be a potential problem in this challenge. And the boss that you fight at the end of the Temple of the Ancients was definitely one of the ones that was on my mind coming into the challenge. So let's see how things went in the build-up towards Demon's Gate. So this main area here has a lot of little treasures and materia and that kind of stuff to be picked up. So I did, as usual, spend as much time as I could to try and get every single thing. Some of these are not particularly useful and some of them could prove useful later on or immediately. And so I did my best to basically not neglect picking things up too much. But you can see that Aerith is also a level 30 there, which is not great. So not only is she just not physically that strong anyway, she can't attack from the back row very effectively, and she's 6 levels lower than Cloud and Barret, which is not the ideal setup. So let's get into our first encounter in Temple of the Ancients and just see how we're doing as a general barometer. I would say random encounters wise, so far there's been very few things to slow us down at this stage, and so I was pretty certain that the random encounters here would be fine. But of course it's going to be a step up. Every new area things are going to get slightly harder, but in general I think the characters have been doing really well. And because I've had to focus on mostly the same party members, and we've been in a lot of encounters, I think levels wise we're doing pretty well too. And so I'm not overly worried here. The same patterns that you guys have been seeing throughout continues. Like even when the random encounters start to get tankier, like you can see this enemy here, despite Cloud doing 700 chunks, it wasn't like a one-hit KO or anything like that. But the damage output coming in from the random encounters is still not high enough. And in terms of status effects, they're just not doing enough to really cause us any problems here. So that battle that you just saw there was generally indicative of how things were going in terms of the encounters that we faced. So in terms of the items, there was of course a few interesting things here, and most of them come towards the later end of this section. So I'm going to skip ahead a little bit here. As I'm talking, you're seeing a bit more of the random encounters, just seeing that I was generally making my way through them without too many issues. Then we get to the clock puzzle, and the clock puzzle is a place where in any run you want to try and do your best to get everything, because there's a few useful things. Now the most useful of these is of course going to be the ribbon accessory. Ribbon in any Final Fantasy game is always going to be a bonus, and especially in this one, because we are so limited in what we can do in battle, the better we can prepare and the stronger our equipment is, obviously the better chance we're going to have of winning. So one of the things I picked up was of course the ribbon from the clock puzzle, and I also picked up the Princess Guard for Aerith. Now she's not here for a long time, but we might as well make her here for a good time, and so the best way to ensure that is to give her the best weapon we can, and the Princess Guard is the best weapon for Aerith, and that's why I tried to make sure I got that as well. And also, while in Temple of the Ancients, I made sure I picked up the silver rifle as well for Vincent in case he was able to make a return later on. So that's the general gist, and alongside that, the final thing I picked up was the nail bat just for kicks, and then it was time to fight the first kind of major boss of the Temple of the Ancients, and that is the Red Dragon. We are facing a Red Dragon, therefore it's probably a good idea to have some fire protection. So in terms of my setup here, I wanted to keep Cloud in Berserk, so the Fury Ring stayed on him for the battle. I also decided to give Barret added effect plus the Choco Materia because I wanted the opportunity to potentially inflict stop on the enemy. So I decided to give that a go for Barret's weapon. And of course defensively I wanted to make sure that I had some kind of fire protection against what was going to be obviously a fire dragon. So that was the general gist of the setup. There was nothing too crazy going on here. I wasn't too worried about Red Dragon. It was what was going to come after that was going to be the bigger problem. So without much further ado, let's head into Red Dragon and see how that went. Now you can see Aerith sticks out a bit with the low HP here, but Cloud straight in with the 674, and the dragon wastes no time hitting us with the Red Dragon Breath, but of course it does big fat 0 because we have some preparations. Now Barret's starting to do good damage as well, 400 despite not having Berserk. I think it's pretty damn good. And well, Aerith's doing her best. She's coming in with like a 110 damage. So we're taking about 400 here. I mean, it's a decent chunk, but again, if you look at our like maximum HP, it's not going to be too big a threat here, especially if it's attacking one character at a time. Now, Red Dragon has 6,800 HP, and compared to some of the numbers you've been seeing in the last episode, that's not particularly high. So unless the enemy has like some special defenses of some kind, 6,800, even with Aerith in the party, should not be too much of a problem. So you can see here, I mean, it's one of his biggest attacks gets negated anyway. Doesn't really seem to be doing anything to attack the entire party, and his physical attack is pretty strong, but it's just not going to be enough to do it against our party. And so we pull through. Aerith barely takes a scratch here in this battle. I don't think she even got hit actually. And we get a Dragon Armlet for our troubles, which has some good elemental protection. And we get the Bahamut Materia as well. So next up after this is going to be Demon's Gate. Now the reason Demon's Gate was particularly fearsome for me before starting this whole thing was because it was a race against time. And you know, it's one of those where if you don't have enough, you don't have enough. You just have to come back. And since I only have the opportunity to use attack, it felt like to me like one of those literally like walls where I could run into it and struggle to get through. You can see there how effective the Dragon Armlet is. It's got really good stats and it gives you some very good elemental protection, so definitely useful to have. After equipping the Princess Guard, I decided to do something a little bit different for Barret and for Cloud. Basically, because this feels like an all-out race against time for Demon's Gate, I wanted to give them their most powerful weapons. And so we have the Rocket Punch here. I wasn't sure if this would kind of be a lot worse because it's not long range, but I was considering moving him to the front and just basically bombarding as heavily as I could. And that's why the weapon for Cloud is Nail Bat. So this was just an attempt to really just do as much damage as possible. I figured Nail Bat plus Berserk for Cloud would be like seriously damaging, and so I was just trying to do my best to really do big damage here. Now as a result of this, Aerith had to be the one with the added effect materia, so even though she wasn't physically too powerful, I gave her the added effect plus time materia, because obviously that was going to give me a chance of slowing down Demon's Gate, and so that was one way in which Aerith could be extremely useful in this battle, while Barret and Cloud focused on trying to do as much damage as possible. So that's one thing I definitely did. She had an elemental like Ifrit. I think that's for Red Dragon. It wasn't particularly relevant for this battle. But yeah, that's the general setup. Cloud and Barret trying to do as much damage as possible, and Aerith trying to slow down Demon's Gate using added effect plus time. I could see that Barret was super close to getting another level up, so I decided to just literally do like a couple more encounters while I was here. So this really was just me trying to go all out and just really demolish Demon's Gate before it had any chance. And with these random encounters you get a chance to see just how damaging Cloud is. So with Berserk plus the Nail Bat, he is doing over 1,000 damage, which is pretty insane. So yeah, I mean, that kind of damage plus Barret's counter ability, they're just looking like a really lethal combination. And well, with a critical hit, it's 2,300 damage. So even at this stage of the game, Cloud is doing some mega damage. And so after literally about 3 encounters, I think, or 4, I managed to get everybody an extra level up. Again, every little helps, especially with Aerith. I wanted her to catch up slightly. Well, the gap would always remain the same, but I wanted her to at least kind of improve on whatever levels that she came in with to the party. So she was up to 32. Nothing crazy, but at least it's better than the 30 that she started with. So now I think I was ready to take on Demon's Gate and see if I could get through. Definitely one of the coolest kind of emergencies / intros for a boss, I think, in the game. Just really cool concept. Okay, here we go. Straight in with 1000 damage, and that's exactly what we needed. So despite Aerith only doing 145, just the sheer power coming in from Cloud is really helping to make up for it. So the Nail Bat definitely putting in work there. Barret 428, a lot more modest, but Cloud is really going to carry the team here. But you don't get a huge amount of time here, so I really needed to just hope for the best and hope that this high level of damage from Cloud is going to be enough to see the day through here. Demon's Gate has 10,000 HP, so it's not a huge amount considering that Cloud can do more than 1,000 by himself, but still. Demon's Rush comes in, and once again back row plus Sadness takes care of most of the damage. And so at this stage it was looking like I could definitely get it done against Demon's Gate, and I think the Berserk plus Nail Bat combination really was very helpful here. And you can see Aerith's time materia hits there as well. The movement's definitely slowed down a bit. So I think it was a good combination all around here. And at this stage I was pretty confident that I'd get the win. And defeat another one of the bosses that I feared in the build up to this run. But it's giving me one more Demon Rush. It's not giving up without a fight here. But it would have to do at least like 3 more of those to really start threatening me at this stage. And the battle just would never last that long anyway. My damage output's too high. It's about 1,500 for all 3 of the party members to attack. So that's a pretty nice attack. But it's been slowed as well, so it's buying me even more time here to make sure I finish up. And there we go. Demon's Gate also defeated in this challenge. So let's say you want to go even more purist than I did and say, no, I don't want to use like Berserk, for example, because I want to literally select the attack command instead of auto battling, basically. Then yeah, I still think it's definitely possible. I mean, you saw there was headroom to take away the Berserk damage and also get it done. There we go, my friends. We got it done. Demon's Gate has been defeated, and I can finally move on past a very important point in the story. So things are still looking good. Let's keep moving forward to the next chapter. Alrighty, now that we are done with the Temple of the Ancients, it's time to get Vincent back in the team. I prefer to have him instead of Yuffie at the moment. And so with Cloud, Vincent and Barret, we are ready to roll once again and continue our journey towards Bone Village and then towards the Forgotten Capital, where some very wholesome and pleasant events are going to happen, I have no doubt. Bone Village, there isn't too much to report. There's not really much battle going on here. I did spend a little bit of time searching around, but nothing major. I did grab the Kajata summon materia in the Sleeping Forest as I continue through, but I'm generally just going to skip through Bone Village. There's not too much to show there, and move on to the Forgotten Capital, which has a lot more action, of course. Something important on the way there is a water ring that you can pick up, and well, we are going to be facing Jenova in the Forgotten Capital, and Jenova will of course have the Aqualung ability, which can definitely hurt us, and it hits the entire party. So that's why, of course, having the opportunity to get something like a water ring is a good idea. And well, doing the Wutai quest in advance and getting the Leviathan material was also a good call, because if it turns out that Aqualung is going to be very damaging to us because, let's say, Sadness and Back Row won't negate things enough, then we're going to start to really need that elemental protection to keep us alive against a move that big. So yeah, the Leviathan material plus the water ring is going to give us 2 options for reducing damage against Aqualung. Another thing we have in the Forgotten Capital is the Aurora Armlet as well, which is a really strong one that could definitely be useful for us. The final thing is the Comet Materia. It's not going to be particularly useful to this run, I think, but hey, it feels weird to kind of not pick it up, so I did pick up the Comet Materia as well. And with that, since there aren't really any random encounters in the Forgotten Capital, I was free to make my way down and continue to a very pivotal and iconic story moment in the Final Fantasy series. I've alluded to things in general already, but let's have a quick look at what I did in the run-up to the next Jenova fight. The setup that I had was one in which I gave Barret the water ring. Again, he's the main tank. I wanted him to basically be able to survive everything as much as possible. And for Cloud, I gave him the elemental plus Leviathan materia that I picked up earlier from Wutai. I gave Vincent the Aurora armlet. That's ice related spell, so I don't think Vincent has any water protection, but we'll just see how things go. So yes, my friends, we make it to the center of the Forgotten Capital, but we're not here for the emotional roller coasters of the story. We're here to fight. So let's skip all of that and get on with Jenova Life. I was waiting with bated breath to see what would happen with Aqualung. Here it is. So, Barret drains the attack. Cloud takes no damage, but Vincent took a hefty chunk there. And that's why, once again, this really was a preparation battle. If I didn't get the Leviathan material from Wutai, then things could have got a lot more interesting here. Jenova Life has 10,000 HP, like Demon's Gate. And so I need all of my party members to be firing here to make sure I get this done. But you can see here, Barret with the water ring really basically isn't in much danger at all, because the attacks are very water heavy here. So that's the main thing to note. It's another battle where preparation ends up winning the day. And so once again, despite the big powerful Aqualung, which will take out Vincent, so, I mean, a boss even getting a KO against a party member is kind of a big deal so far in this challenge. And so, I mean, Jenova Life is one of the rare bosses that managed to get a KO here. But that critical comes in from Cloud, finishes it off with 1,500 damage. And so, yes, Jenova Life has been defeated thanks to the preparations and the water elemental resistance that I have with my equipment and my material. And so yes, despite it being an extremely dramatic part of the story, the boss battle against Jenova Life was not that dramatic, and we could continue on our path towards Sephiroth and the finale of the story. At this point, with how easily I got through Demon's Gate and also Jenova Life, I was really starting to think that I surely have to be able to complete the story and see the credits roll with this challenge. I was definitely feeling way more confident than I did, say, like 10 hours of gameplay ago. So things are looking good. We're definitely in control, and battles are looking like they are working in our favor, as long as we have the right preparations especially. So let's say goodbye to Aerith and continue our journey. So I did kind of forget to revive Vincent before continuing on the road, and I got myself into an encounter, but this again is going to be like a show here of just how much headroom we have at the moment. Just really high levels of damage here. Just too powerful. Just really OP at this stage. And I would say I'm maybe, in terms of levels grinded, I'd say I've grinded maybe 4 levels, 5 levels at this stage. And I think it's more of a setup thing than a pure level situation here. I think if all of these guys were like level 33 instead of 38 and 36, I don't think the outcome would have been very different. They're just very strong. They have really good weaponry, they have the right materia, and well, of course, the Berserk is helping too. It's definitely speeding things up. But from what I'm seeing so far, I don't think I've seen a battle where I think Berserk has made the difference. I think it's just made it easier and faster. So that's how I feel about it right now. If there's a battle where Berserk makes all the difference and it could be impossible without Berserk, then fair play. Then like that's that's an area of the challenge that you can look into. If you want to try this yourself, you could definitely do it without trying to use any Berserk in your own one, or maybe put some more restrictions, like don't use any materia, see how far you can get, see how grindy that becomes. Maybe don't allow certain colors of materia, or maybe don't allow any accessories. You can always just customize these kind of challenges to your heart's content, whatever is the most fun and entertaining for you. So with that said, let's resume. We've got some cliff climbing to do. The random encounters we have here once again are not a problem. And in terms of the things to pick up, you can get a bolt armlet, which, well, you've seen how powerful and useful the water ring was. And so again, any kind of elemental protection that you can get with an accessory or a piece of equipment instead of using materia is definitely good, because we have a pretty finite number of elemental and, well, status effect materials as well. So the more of these I find, the better. So that's exactly what I was doing on my way towards the Icicle Inn. Welcome to the Icicle Inn, my friends. I love the music and the vibe here. It's just so nice. Look at it. Look how cozy it is. It's just so cool. Considering the fact that we've come off such a like tragic, wild part of the story, I do feel like Icicle Inn is kind of like what the game needed. So yeah, as an aside, there's not really much battles and stuff going on here. This really is an area of like item and equipment acquisition and just trying to make progress. So I'm not going to talk too much about it. I'm going to show you guys again some highlights of some of the things I got up to in this area. And what I'm definitely not going to show you is how I did on the little snowboard minigame, because you just don't need to see that. Trust me on that. And we're just going to move forward towards the snowstorm bit, because there were some things that I definitely needed to pick up while I was there. So this did take a while. I always hate the snowstorm bit, and I definitely use a guide. It's one of those things where it's just too frustrating to try and do all of it blind and try to remember where everything is and make your way through the snow and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I did use a guide for this bit, and I made sure that I picked up a few little things. We have a safety bit, which once again is going to be quite useful to us as it protects against death, which is quite a bad status effect, because there is no way for us to basically revive party members here using attack only. So definitely a useful one to pick up. And there was also the added cut materia. Now this one I wasn't sure, like on paper I was like attack only, added cut. If there's a way that I can attack the enemy and then use this materia to just gain further attacks, then that could be a really nice idea. But again, I didn't know the game well enough to know if it was a material I could actually use. And in hindsight, once I picked it up, I kind of realized that you need to pair it with a different materia other than attack, which in and of itself is not a materia. So you have to basically get to like master materia. I think you need like master command materia and shit like that. And I was like, yeah, I'm not really going to make any use of that stuff. So the added cut materia seemed like it could be a good idea for someone who doesn't know the game too well. But after I picked it up, I kind of quickly realized that I can't really make use of it within the rules of this challenge. Another thing you can pick up is Alexander's Summon materia, which again gives you just like another elemental option if you want to pair it with that materia. While I'm down in the snowstorm, I will show you guys a couple of encounters as well, just again as a barometer of how things are going. In general, even if they're not like super interesting, I of course want to show you guys some of them in the background, just so you can see how things are scaling along, because it might literally be, I don't know, 2 hours of gameplay between bosses, and so I think it's cool to see what's going on during that time. But as you're seeing in this particular encounter, things are dying in like 2 or 3 hits at the moment, and even Barrett is landing close to 800 damage. And well, as we're leveling up, of course, because we do have some HP plus materia as well, our HP is going up pretty rapidly. So again, as I've been saying, the team is looking strong and doesn't seem like we have any issues at the moment. It's going to take something pretty formidable to stop us at this stage, I think. These guys were a little bit weird because they actually have the ability to heal, but in general their HP is not that high. So it took a hit there, 782, but then did like a massive heal, which is kind of weird, like considering how low its HP relatively is. It seems like having the ability to heal for 3,300 is a bit wild. So fair play. I mean, it's a nice heal, don't get me wrong, but if you have like 10,000 HP and you're healing for 3,000, then that's gonna help. But I think with the HP level it has, unless you're like really under-leveled and struggling hard, it's not going to be much of a factor. And finally, I do have to give a little shout out to these mini robot guys. I do love them. They're just really cute. They're just tiny and cute. Like, yes, they're not going to be the most formidable enemy in the world, but just something about them, I don't know, they're just so random compared to everything else. Just seeing these like tiny mini robot guys just appearing, I don't know, so I've always found them funny. But yes, they are relatively resilient. Like, they've got a decent amount of HP given how tiny they are. They can withstand 3 attacks from this party, which at this stage is pretty impressive, but can they really do anything? I mean, they're doing 220 damage. It's less than 10% of Barrett's full HP. But the resilience is definitely impressive, so they deserve a little shout out here. They took a little while to kill, especially when you factor in the animation time and stuff. They did slow me down a little bit. But Vincent's just enjoying that coldness, and it's only a matter of time before they get taken out. So yeah, they're a fun little duo, but no trouble for the team. Once we did a little bit of climbing, we get into this really funky looking cave. This is one area that I think in the remake in the future is going to look really cool. I do hope they do it justice. They have done so far. All the areas have looked fantastic, so I feel like this one is going to be no exception. But the encounters here, let's have a look at them. They are kind of rehashes of enemies we've seen before, of course. But you never know, they could end up being weirdly effective. They could have a status effect that we're not expecting. But in general, once again, they're looking pretty tame. Toxic Bath comes in, poisons us. Yeah. The battle's not going to last long enough for poison to really be a factor. And there you go, dead already, before poison even had a chance to do anything. So, yeah, once again, the Juggernaut rolls on. And with that, I could continue on to the cave area, in which you can find another ribbon. And so that's 2 ribbons at this stage. And so again, for an attack-only run, to be able to have an accessory that means you basically don't have to think about status effects is a massive win. The next boss we're going to face is called Schizo? I'm not sure how you pronounce it. But this time, once again, it's another boss that I did remember from my first playthrough. And the only interesting thing about this boss was that compared to what we previously fought, it's one of the biggest, well, it is the biggest HP jump that we've faced so far in the game. And so that's the only thing that I thought could be interesting. The 2 of them together, they have 18,000 HP each, so that's 36,000 compared to the 10,000 that Demon's Gate had and the 10,000 that Genova Life had. So yeah, we're definitely stronger, and those battles weren't exactly that difficult. But I felt like, well, this is 3.5 times as much HP, so I kind of have to respect that. And so also what I knew, other than that, was the fact that these guys are elemental heavy. And so obviously that meant that in my preparation, I had to try and get as many of my elemental kind of materials and equipment and accessories as I could before going into the battle. Once I did get that second ribbon, I decided to equip it onto Vincent. I wanted a bit more security as opposed to having 2 people with Berserk at this stage, so I decided to just go for that. I knew that Vincent also had the equipment that drains cold as well, and so I thought he already has some ice protection, and he's going to have ribbon too, so he should be pretty formidable against these guys. It was going to be difficult for me to basically cover all of the bases here, and so I hoped that even the ones that I didn't have protection for, I wouldn't take enough damage that it would be like a massive issue. But before we fight Schizo, I have to show you guys a random encounter that I'm sure people who know the game will be thinking about in this region, and that is the Marlboro. Let's see what happens here. We do have 2 ribbons, and therefore I'm already not as worried here. The bio comes in, it hits Cloud, who does have ribbon, and so unfortunately the HP is very low here, a lot lower than I thought. I mean, we're facing a boss that's going to have collectively 36,000 HP, and we have a Marlboro enemy before it, and considering where it is in the game, I feel like it should have had at least like double or triple that HP, but I guess I have to be thankful that I can make easy progress despite the Marlboro. So for anyone expecting them to be a problem here, they were definitely not. Maybe if I play Final Fantasy VIII and I deliberately go Marlboro hunting, it could be a different story. But for Final Fantasy VII and this particular attack-only challenge, the Marlboros were no issue. Before I fought Schizo, one thing I did want to do was basically take advantage of the dragons in the area. Dragon armlets are definitely useful, and again, we're facing up against bosses that have a lot of elemental attacks, and so I figured the more dragon armlets I have, the better. So I hung around in this area until I fought a dragon. So I'll show you guys that in the background, and that was just another piece of preparation I wanted to have in my pocket, not just for the next boss battle, but moving forward. Like I say, just having elemental protection, you can never have too much of it, and so I figured it was definitely the best thing to do. The dragon itself, not really too much of a threat once again. It does have attacks that can do maybe like 300 damage, 400 damage, but just in general, it's not going to be something that could trouble us On the one hand, they're growing in terms of their levels anyway, and on the other hand, because those HP plus materials are equipped, obviously their HP is growing at basically like a double rate, and so already Barret has gone to over 4,000 HP at this stage. Before heading into the boss battle, I had a final look at the setup, and I was basically trying to juggle around the elements in as fair a way as possible, basically trying to cover as many of the bases as I could, because I don't think there was like a one-size-fits-all, but with some combination of elemental materia, the equipment I had and the accessories I had pretty good elemental coverage as a result. So I had things like the bolt armlet for Cloud, I had like elemental plus Shiva, then I had like the ice ring, I had the Aurora armlet, so I had a whole bunch of stuff here to protect me from the elements. And so with that, I went into the battle against Schizo, and far and away the most HP I have to take out in a single battle in the run so far. Let's see how we go. Alright, let's go. 18,000 HP per head. Now the last time we faced a two-headed enemy, it was just a random encounter and it gave us a hard time. So let's see how we do this time. A nice fat 0 damage. 1,162 from a berserked Vincent. So 2,000 between him and Cloud together. That's pretty good. Cloud again, 0 damage from the fire as well. So in general, we seem to be doing about 1,000 damage a pop here. 0 damage on Barret 2. And so once again, it's looking like our preparations are king. So even though this enemy has a lot of HP, and it could take a while, because it's so elemental, so far at least we're doing okay. So Vincent is the first one to take any actual damage, and let's see what happens when it gets iced. It heals the damage right back up. So yeah, takes damage from fire but drains ice, and so as a result, unless he's really unlucky, he's going to be okay. So then this attack comes in. We've got a Quake style attack which hits everybody and does a decent chunk of damage. 400 is okay. But considering that we negate so many of the elementals and drain some of them too, I was pretty sure that even though they've got a lot of HP, it won't be able to do enough quakes to take me out before I do enough damage here. But definitely a very respectable amount of HP. And well, if I didn't have the elemental protection, I'd be in really big trouble here. But so far so good. It's been a while since I've had time to actually like to commentate and just watch the battle a little bit. Like if that Quake did double the damage, then we're in like we'd be in for like a really serious battle here. But even at a total of 36,000, it's just not going to be enough. And you can see Vincent's basically back up to full HP. So depending on luck as well, you could end up basically being healed mostly for Vincent as well. But he seems to be getting an equal distribution of both at the moment. Yeah, they're just back to back. But everything basically other than Quake. I mean, Quake is Earth is an element too, of course, but like the lion's share of the attacks is just fire and ice basically. So as long as you've got fire and ice protection, it's pretty unlikely that you're going to get wiped out here. Unless that Quake just damages you really heavily and you're doing some kind of challenge where you can't heal. But there you go. I mean, that was a pretty good move, I have to say. But I guess that was, yeah, because we had a bolt armlet for Cloud, so he healed. So that was a lightning-based move. So it does have it. Fair play. But you can see it's not quite going to be enough. But hey, it put up a better fight than Demon's Gate and Genova Life did. So credit where it's due. But at this stage, it's just it can't have too much left in the tank. But it did bring us down to below half HP for Vincent and Barret. So I mean, it's impressive. Again, if Vincent didn't have Berserk, I don't think it would have made the difference here. Like in general, it's putting up a good fight and it's a good battle, but it would have taken maybe like 5 extra hits, 6 extra hits. But getting all those hits back to back is a bit rude, I have to say. So it can seem to fire this, but I guess it's only when a head dies, basically. And so Cloud ends the battle with 3,100 HP. Everybody survives, and we take out Schizo. And there it is. Dragon Fang as well. So, I will wrap up the episode with that victory as well, and as you can see, the team is really motoring on, and it looks for all the world at the moment that we are going to be able to complete this challenge. I mean, what can truly stand in our way? It remains to be seen, but definitely stay tuned to find out, because I'm going to be doing everything I can to take this challenge all the way, and there's going to be at least one twist in the story. I will say that much. I'm not trying to kind of overhype it. There was at least one twist that I think is worth mentioning, because especially for like this episode, you're probably starting to think that, yeah, like he's completely run away with this, and it's just going to be a steamroll for the rest of the game. And so, yeah, there's at least one more kind of sting in the tail that you guys are going to probably enjoy seeing. So I would just leave it with that and just ask that you guys stay tuned and continue to enjoy the series. And especially if you are enjoying the effort and entertainment value of these kinds of videos, please do show the Patreon some love. It helps the channel massively, and you gain some early access alongside some other perks too, including an exclusive Discord group for the higher tiers on Patreon too. So definitely check that stuff out. But in any case, I hope to see you guys for the next episode. I hope you are continuing to enjoy the series. Thank you so much for watching. Take care.